and welcome to the Healing Pathways interview series. I am the Soul Path artist, Larissa Davis, and my guest today is Andrea Wenger, who is let me tell you all about the wonderful things that Andrea does and her accomplishments. Andrea has a Master of Applied Healing Arts. She's a sound healer and a Reiki master. And Andrea creates a sacred space for deep healing through sound, consciousness, and ancient healing practices. As a holistic wellness practitioner for 12 years and sound healer for 8, she supports spiritual awakening and personal transformation through sound and other vibrational healing practices. Andrea offers private healing sessions, sound healing events, space clearings, workshops, retreats, and she has a CD of meditative songs. Welcome, Andrea. Thank you for joining me here.
Thank you, Larissa. It's quite an honor.
Well, I feel honored as well. So you and I met, I think it was at Flourish, right? In Biddeford.
Yeah.
And I was so excited that you were there because sound is something that has been resonated with me for quite some time, and even more powerfully as I have continued on my own healing path on this soul path journey that I'm on. So you had offered to start us off with a little song to help us center and be present. So why don't you take it from here?
Sure, I'd be happy to. This is a little song that I just love using to open most of the group sessions that I do. It comes from the Thich Nhat Hanh tradition, a Zen Buddhist monk. He didn't write it, I don't think, but his community, it's one of their many songs. So it's very short. I'll just sing it through 3 times, and feel free to close your eyes and just settle in. Allow yourself to arrive right here for anyone who is listening to this whenever and wherever you are. Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. No longer in a hurry. Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. No longer in a hurry. Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. No longer in a hurry. Wow, nice deep breath.
Thank you so much. That is beautiful. And that the imagery of dropping your worries is so powerful. I could just feel it, just like those heavy things just dropping by the side.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
what
it's
a beautiful
such an
song.
Important thing to be conscious that we have a choice, and we can let go of the things that are swirling around in our minds, and choose to just be right here, right now, with what is around us, the sounds, the sights, what are the tangibles, what our body's connected with, whether we're sitting, feeling your feet on the floor, your body in connection with a chair, or whatever it is. So yeah, it's powerful to just come into the present moment like that.
Can you speak a little bit about vibration and why it is an effective and powerful tool for bringing us present, for healing, for so many things?
Mm-hmm. Well, the whole universe is vibrating. Every single thing is vibrating. The universe is vibration, we could say. And so by using vibrational techniques, we're helping to bring what has kind of come out of let me back up a minute. There's that everything is vibrating, and when we are in a state of complete health and vitality and so on, we have a natural vibration, or frequency is another way to put it, for our whole being. There's also specific frequencies and vibrations for different organ systems within the body. And so through the challenges of life, the traumas, the hurts, the stresses, the negative thinking, all the different things that kind of tend to pull us out of sorts and out of tune, really, out of that normal, natural frequency and the harmony that happens within the whole being, all the different systems. Vibrational healing helps to bring all of that back into harmony. Kind of entrainment is one of the main principles, where a particular vibrating body with another vibrating body or system entrains, the stronger one entrains the other, and they move towards coming into synchrony or harmony. So I recently read a quote from someone in the sound healing field that talked about the whole, actually it was about entrainment being the principle of the universe is all seeking harmony. It's a movement towards harmony. And so the vibrational healing techniques really are supporting that to happen more quickly. And sound penetrates more quickly and more deeply and works more quickly than most anything else. So it's very powerful.
So that entrainment then, does that mean that that creating sound intentionally in a group is more effective?
Do you mean more effective than solo?
By yourself, yeah.
Yeah. I would say that probably yes. The other important piece is intention. So going to a rock concert and creating sound with everybody else, there's certain value to that, depending on where you're at in your life, et cetera. And depending on, you're kind of taking in all of the intentions of everyone around you. So that's a little different than group oming in a yoga class, so to speak. Say that that's so much better or whatever, but there's a very different intention there.
Right.
And a sound healing session like the ones that I do, holding a very sacred healing type of intention makes a big difference.
Right. Now,
however, back to what you were addressing is that in a group setting, yes, there's an added element of being able to come into harmony with other beings. And that is incredibly powerful, really incredibly powerful. Again, it's a little dependent on, the holding of the space, who, and the creation of that intention together.
Right.
So, yeah, it can be extremely powerful. And on your own is also, I'm not sure that one would necessarily outweigh the other, because doing it on your own is also very powerful.
So tell me about your pathway to discovering vibrational healing and singing and playing the bowls and all that you do with sound now.
Yeah, well, it's been a very organic process, not something at all that I expected I would find myself doing at this time. I did enjoy music a lot as a child, in church settings, school settings, family, a lot of singing, piano playing, flute playing. Those were my main things. And even through college, singing in the select choir in college and so on, and did a little bit of, singing in family weddings and so on in just my young adulthood. And then it fell away somewhat. And it was Through my journey of just more out of curiosity, checking out a yoga class because my friend had come back from Nepal and had taught me a
Mm.
few yoga poses, but I didn't know what yoga was. This was back in the 90s and or right around the turn of the century. And um, then there was a yoga class where I had gotten a new job and I was like, let me check this out. And my yoga teacher was a Reiki master, so she was talking about Reiki too. And so I started on that path just out of curiosity and because I had gone and had a few sessions with her, and it was just really powerful for me in my life. And um, felt like there was kind of this just gentle awakening, and also I don't know if I would have called it relaxation, but there was definitely a dial down on the internal stress level for myself
Mm.
at that time. And um, she had a friend who did sound healing concerts with crystal singing bowls in her voice, and she would bring her in for these sound healing concerts. And I went to those and was just blown away and just loved it. And she would invite us to tone with her, and it was just, heaven on earth. So over time, I took a sound healing training with that woman and another local woman. I was in the Baltimore area at the time, and just kind of slowly, one foot after another, felt like, how can I not?
Mm.
Well, it wasn't so much that it was really a desire of wow, I really want to be able to do this. And by then I was in private practice with health coaching, nutrition, and bringing the Reiki into that already. And it just felt like a natural piece to add a crystal singing bowl and eventually my
Right.
voice. And I was just slowly but surely following the whisperings of my heart, the nudgings, even though there was plenty of fear around it as I went. I just kept taking one more step of what felt clear and like I needed to do, and
Yeah.
eventually felt very drawn to the vibrational piece, that affects us a little more on the emotional and spiritual side rather than the physical, which is where I had started out in.
Mm. So
So
speaking of that, how has working with sound and vibration in your voice helped you on your own healing path?
mm, well, like I said, the way it helps to dial down that stress response. I think I didn't even realize, especially when I first started into sound, I didn't realize how much soft trauma tension I was carrying in my
Mm.
body from early childhood experiences. Um, and I was definitely struggling with kind of the usual, trying to make sense of family relationships and where I'm going with my life and all of that. Um, and there was just something so incredibly powerful and um, soothing and just so supportive in the sound and the vibration. And actually, I'll speak to Reiki as also being vibrational, even though it's not usually spoken of that way. It's kind of lumped in as energy healing, and really energy is vibration. So it's working at a very subtle level of our being that is vibrational in nature.
Mm.
And so through the Reiki and then also the sound, it's just really been this beautiful, loving, supportive nudging, so to speak, of me on my awakening journey of my
Mm.
soul, like really waking up to my purpose for being here and greater meaning in my life. Even though, in my teens and early 20s, I don't think I would have said I didn't have meaning in my life. It's just deepened and widened and opened up in such a bigger way. Um, and really as a way, all the sound is effective in all its different ways, but the use of the voice is really an absolutely central part for me. And it's our own voice is the most powerful healing instrument there is.
Mm.
So being able to kind of reclaim my passion for singing and um, and and explore things like toning has really helped me to just be strengthening and finding my own voice in a more clear way. And I mean, there's just so many benefits.
Well, what comes to mind that I'm like, there are people that struggle with holding a tune, right? Or so what does someone like that do to incorporate their voice into their healing path?
And I'm so glad you asked that. And it's something I always mention whenever I'm doing group sound healing sessions. I almost always do a group toning practice together. And I always talk about, it being an opportunity to let all those stories go about not being able to sing, because so many people have received judgmental, critical messages from the choir teacher, friends, family members, whoever, like, please don't sing, just mouth the words or whatever, because maybe they were a little off tune.
Yeah.
And my heart is so sad by hearing those kinds of experiences, because again, our voice is our most powerful thing. And when we've been silenced or suppressed in that way, there's repercussions. So it's so important. When I hear people who have had those kinds of experiences say that they do sing in the shower, I'm like, yay, at least you're using it and not being quiet completely. So I think it's just important to make sound, sing, do whatever you can and want to, follow the desire of your heart and don't worry what other people say.
That's great.
And what I teach is just a really simple practice where we use a different vowel sound for each of the chakras. It doesn't have to be chakra based, but just allowing sound to come out it's like a release valve from all that tension and stress that builds up within us and actually I want to name specifically the suppressed emotions. So much of the emotion that can't get released in times when we don't feel safe, but we're triggered in some way. It's an emotional experience and we don't feel safe to be able to express it. That gets buried and it gets stuck and lodged in the energetic field or biofield, which is what science is calling it. And that leads to dis-ease in the body. That's the beginnings of illness. And whether it's chronic illness or acute illnesses as well, it all contributes. So this toning practice is a way to just let out some of that stuff. You don't have to be cognitively aware of what it is, but just releasing some of that tension, stress, it could be specifically anger or sadness and grief, we really do use sound healing. I'll just interject this. We use sound healing every day in our lives, the moans, the groans, the sighs,
right,
laughing, all of these things are ways that we are helping to balance and and heal ourselves.
Right. Yeah, I think of all those sighs. You're right. You hear someone sigh from the other room, and you're like, "Whoa, what's going on?" Right. And a lot of times, you don't even know what's going on. You don't even know you've sighed. Right? It's just like it just comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think too, like some of the work that I've done more recently with sound and listening to some of those CDs that I mentioned to you earlier before we started recording. I noticed that I don't even necessarily, first of all, actually, I've noticed that, what I think of as carrying a tune, there are so many different notes. There's so many different, steps along the scale other than what I learned traditionally in Western culture, right? So there's just, I don't know what I'm trying to say there, except that, if you feel like you're off tune, you're really just adding a different sound, you're just adding a different vibration that's important for you. And also that sometimes when I'm toning, I just I'll just like go and do weird things, and I'll just make all kinds of weird noises, right? And like this crazy stuff that just feels right. So.
Yeah. And that's more of what I usually encourage people to do is just let the sound out. You can do it in a structured way, but you don't have to. And a lot of times we don't necessarily have spaces where we feel safe, like we're worried somebody else is listening. So in the car, if you have a car and you drive around and commute, that's a perfect place to just really let it rip, and go seek out places where you can be alone and just let it go.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem is that we have, as a society, a Western culture, we've given over our power to the professional musicians. And it's like, if I can't do it, perfectly or really, really well like that, then I can't do it at all, is kind of the story that's developed.
And I just have to say, you hear that, artists? This is the same message I have for everybody with visual art as well. Exactly. We look and we're like, oh, well, if it's not a Rembrandt, why would I bother painting, right? So, because it'll heal you.
So true. It's creativity. We need to just let it out without judgment, is such an important piece. So letting the sound just come out, just start with an and let it go, and then take another breath and see what else wants to come out. It might come out as an ooh, there's just whatever wants to come forth.
And it's great too. Like, I think of it with my own practice and with painting, that it really does, like, I end up moving differently too when I make a sound, and that affects how I'm painting. So it's just a wonderful addition to my creativity practice as well.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So I'm just going to check our time. So we have okay. Because I would love you to take us through the 12 steps you mentioned.
You mean the toning of the chakras?
Yes, the toning of the chakras. Yes, but I do want to ask you first, is there anything else that you feel is important to mention? And I think we talked earlier about ways that people can incorporate sound and toning. We've sort of covered some of those, but really just, I guess I'm going to open it to you at this point and let you speak if there's anything that you're like, oh, I wanted to talk about this. Go ahead.
Well, I tend to just kind of go with the flow. I didn't have an agenda.
Okay, good.
So everyone is different, and we're all at completely different places in terms of using our voice. And I don't want to, have the message here be that only the voice is, because you might simply want to first start, if that feels too intimidating, just start by going to some kind of a sound healing event. People in yoga classes these days actually get to experience it, because a lot of times, not everywhere, but a lot of times there's sound. Maybe there's live music in the room, or the teacher will play a crystal singing bowl or a Tibetan bowl, or Himalayan bowl really is what they are, at the end, during the Shavasana practice or something like that. If you're not a yoga person, you might just, search on Facebook events or on local event sites, or just, Google in general, sound healing or sound therapy. There's a lot of different terms that are used. So for example, the group sessions that I typically do, most of the time is a chance to lie down and get really comfortable and just receive the sounds. And I use a variety of things, not only the crystal singing bowls, which are, if you've never heard them, it's like taking your finger around the top of a wine glass or champagne glass, crystal glass, times 100. It's just like really powerful vibration that penetrates and just goes through your whole, you feel it moving through your whole body. And so it's really something you can't describe to someone else. You have to experience it. And part of my training has been with a shaman who I learned how to use the drum for healing. So I use a frame drum, which is very gentle drumming. If anyone's experienced shamanic drumming, journey work with a drum, it would be sometimes similar to that, but that's usually a fast beat. And I often do a slower beat, or a heartbeat is a very powerful healing sound. I use rattle. I have something called a thunder stick, bells. So it's a variety of different sounds, and you can just kind of receive it And there's nothing to do. That's the other beautiful thing, is so many times when we're on this healing journey or soul journey, whatever it is, it's like we're kind of running after trying to seek some particular state of perfection. I don't, what is it? It's kind of crazy. And I think that's one of the beautiful lessons with sound, is that there's nothing to do. You just receive. You might fall asleep, which is completely fine. Usually it's helping to modulate the brain waves from that highly active beta state that we're in during the day when we're planning and using all the logic and reasoning, and brings it down into the alpha state, which is light meditation, daydreamy, and then into the theta state, which is the deep meditative state. And a lot of people reach that during those sound meditations that I do. And so you might kind of lose consciousness and sense of time. A lot of people wake up and are like, what happened, because it just kind of takes us out of that conscious mind that is in so much control, and allows us to go into that space where spontaneous healing can really happen.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited because you and I are doing this retreat at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get to experience this with you, which I'm thrilled about. So if any of you guys are considering going to this retreat, which I know sort of dates this video now, but it's the end of October 2018, we're doing a wonderful retreat with Leah Wentworth in Bethel, Maine. So Andrea is going to be there and doing her sound healing. Oh my gosh, I can just, like, everything you say, my whole body is going, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, we so need it. I mean, we're just so, with technology, the media, social media, we're just so inundated with stress constantly in our world.
Yeah.
And we have to really choose times and spaces to step out of that and be and get the support we need to relax and start learning the practices, like art, like sound, all these. There's so many possibilities of ways that we can learn to support ourselves. And I do a lot to support myself, and I still, whenever there's another sound healer doing something, if I can get there, I go, because it's so wonderful to just receive.
It is. You're so right. Yes. It's incredible. Well, with that in mind, let's segue into the 12 chakra toning.
Right.
And this is, just tell me a little bit about this and how people can use this in their lives.
Yeah. So I stick with the basic chakras. It's actually just 7, the notes of the scale, in other words.
Gotcha.
There are many more chakras than that, but this is just a real basic practice. And for anyone that's not familiar with chakras, chakras are the junction points between our physiology, our body, and our consciousness. And there are 7 major ones that start at the base of the spine and move up to the crown of the head. So again, this is a wonderful practice for simply releasing tension, stress. And again, you don't need to be conscious of what's being released. Just pay attention to the vibration that you're feeling in your body as you make the sound. And without judgment, letting go of those judgments of, that it should sound a certain way, that it should sound like my voice sounds, if that's all you're going to be hearing on this recording. When I do it in a group, it's really powerful because we have that group dynamic going on, and there's the interweaving of all the vibrations of everyone's voices is really an incredible experience. And your own voice is also the most powerful thing that you can be healing yourself with. So I'll just step through it. I'm
gonna mute myself so that I'm gonna be doing it, but I don't want to interfere with what you're doing. So yeah, I'm going on mute now.
Okay. So if you're listening, wherever you are, if you can just take a moment to find a comfortable seat. You could lie down, you could even stay standing. That works as well. And if you're driving, I don't recommend, well, you could. You just, of course, aren't going to close your eyes. But if you're already feeling a little relaxed, just be careful with this. All right. So bringing your attention to your breath first. Just noticing the breath moving in and out of the body without needing to control it. And we're going to move along. I think we'll simply do 2 breaths on each one. I'm going to tell you the sound that we're going to make, and then we will do 2 breaths together. Everyone's lung capacity is a little bit different, but I'll try not to hold it out too long. And again, simply focusing on the feeling of the vibrations moving through your body. So we'll start at the root of the spine, at the tailbone. And the sound here is the sound of as in cup. And I will be moving basically up a scale with this. You do not need to match, if you don't know anything about matching pitch or tone, just disregard that completely. Just let the sound out in whatever way it wants to come out. If you want to move with me up the scale, that is fine too. So again, back to the breath. And on your next exhale, just squeezing a little more air out of your lungs than usual so that you can allow for a nice deep inhale. And we'll start on Great. We'll do one more with that sound. And now we'll move to the sacral chakra, which is just below the navel. And the sound here is going to be ooh. So another nice deep breath. Ooh. And to the solar plexus, right in the center below the rib cage. The sound here is O. I'm going to pause to mention a couple things, just a reminder to let go of any judgments. You may have noticed by now that different chakras or sounds may have felt a little different, maybe a little harder than another, some a little easier. It's completely normal and fine. So we'll move now to the heart, and the sound here is ah. Just really feel the vibrations moving through your heart, allowing the energy to just be released through the sounds of the voice. Into the throat, the sound here is A. And to the third eye, sound here is I. And to the crown of the head, and the sound here is E. And let's end with one final Om. There are chakras above your head as well. Let's end with a couple Oms at the top. And just pause for a few moments of silence to let the vibrations integrate in your body. Noticing how you feel in your body, and also the quality of your mind and heart. Just notice anything that might feel a little different than when you started. And then gently opening your eyes when you're ready. So, a couple things I just want to mention. If you're not familiar with what an ohm is, it is believed to be the sound of the whole universe vibrating. So that's why it's often used. It comes from the ancient yogic teachings and so on, practices. Anything you want to say, Larissa, about how you feel?
Oh, I feel so much more present, and also I feel more awake all through my body. You know, like all my extremities are like going, oh, really? Okay, what's next?
Yeah, I feel that too. That's that vibration kind of still moving.
Yeah.
I'll just mention that, maybe anybody that's listening and doing this, if you feel kind of energized by it in a wonderful way, that's great. If you feel a little ungrounded by it, you might want to come back, just don't worry about which vowel sounds, just kind of do a couple more soundings and come back down to and with your focus at the root at the base of the spine to kind of ground yourself again. Usually I go up and back down with 3 breaths on each one when we do it as a group.
Okay. Great. So guys, if you're doing this, go up and then go back down. Listen to it in reverse. I don't know how that would work, right?
All kinds of things you can do with it, and you don't have to do it perfectly.
Right. So, Andrea, how do people find out about how they can access you for your services?
Yes, so my website is probably the best option. It's www.andreawenger.com. Yes. And there are events there. There's special events. Like, for example, this weekend I'm doing, well, actually, I'm not sure when this is going to get out to others. So I do retreats. I'm doing an autumn day retreat. I'm doing a longer sound workshop called Expansion. Usually I'm doing sacred sound meditations, or sacred sound illuminations is another name that I'm using for some longer ones. And so there's special events as well as a sound healing events page there. You can find me on Facebook, Andrea Wenger, or Vibrational Healing is my business page, and I have events listed there. My phone number is also on the website, as well as a contact page that people can reach out to me for individual work, space clearing, special events. There's all kinds of different ways that I'd be happy to support anyone who wants to explore sound for the first time, or expand on their soul journey. My work is really about letting go of all those layers that hide our most authentic self and bringing our authentic voice into the world and our gifts. So important at this time. And I find sound and Reiki and these ancient healing practices to be so powerful and supportive of us at this time. And I almost forgot to mention that I do have the CD that's also on the webpage, on the website. It's a mixture of some a cappella songs that are very meditative and in nature, and soothing. And there's also a guided relaxation of the whole body. It's about 13 minutes long. That's one of the tracks on there. It's very useful for many people if you just need a little help to de-stress. And it's useful. I mean, you can just listen to it because it's nice to listen to. A lot of people love to use it to fall asleep if you have difficulty falling asleep. It's also great for children, even though it wasn't necessarily recorded for children. I was told by my wonderful yoga teacher and Reiki master who introduced me to all of this. She's like, you need to market this to children, because so many children are just so stressed out and having challenges with sleeping and anxiety and so on. So.
Wow. Well, that is wonderful. Yes. So please follow up, check Andrea out. And Andrea, thank you so much for joining me today. This was wonderful. I feel so much better than when we started.
Great. Well, it's been such an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just really appreciate all the wonderful things that you are putting out there in the world, and I can't wait to make art with you.
I know. It's going to be great. Yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, goodbye.